Hello there, Jarod the Dark Jedi here. As all of you are aware, the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild are both on strike. And after some consideration, it has been determined that review content, like what is mostly predominantly makes up a lot of what we produce, is still going to be not considered crossing the picket line. It is still encouraged by the Screen Actors Guild, who established new terms additional to what was being asked to be complied with the WGA. What we do here, the conversations we love to have with a bunch of our friends, to have with you guys, is not possible. The stories we love to talk about, the stories that we love, do not get made without the blood, sweat, tears, creativity, and brilliance of the writers and actors. And currently, the studios who produce the things we love um, are working these writers and actors to death, not compensating them appropriately, and are trying to replace them with AI. I would think it goes without saying that the Nerd Academy podcast stands staunchly with the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild, and we'll be supporting them from here until the end of these strikes in whatever way that we can. There will be links in each episode description so that you are able to see how you can help, where you can help, how you can donate to different funds to keep food in the belly and roofs over the heads of the writers and actors who are trying to make historic change in Hollywood as we speak. This review, this discussion, this news roundup, whatever the episode may be, was recorded during these strikes. And our love for the works of these writers, of these actors, will continue to be praised and discussed while they fight for their rights. And I want to implore everybody watching and listening to aid in whatever way they can. We stand in solidarity, and we ask that you do too. So, without any further ado, here's the show.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior webhead master, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs, and we got a news roundup for you guys. I'm here from the future doing the intro and outro and everything, because it saves on time sometimes. Some programming notes. First of all, Sunday. You guys will be getting the Mr. Radtastic TNAP collab, where Mr. Radtastic is going to take us through the first phase of his DC cinematic universe. Pardon my hiccups. I am beyond excited to have him on the show to talk about this. I love his vision. I love the grasp he has on these characters and his understanding about what makes these heroes tick. There are so many things that I've wanted to bring up with regards to Mr. Radtastic's vision for the DCU that I just don't want to spoil Travis for, or spoil any of you guys who have been saving yourselves for this conversation. So I cannot recommend this episode enough. That'll be out on Sunday. And you can get more of me on Sunday if you so choose, because I'm going to be on a live stream hosted by our friends over at Nerd Herder. Boop and John are doing an episode about Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn that I'm going to be on that I'm very, very, very excited for. So keep your eyes peeled for all of that. Like I said, Mr. Radtastic episode on Sunday, as well as a live stream on Nerd Herder talking about Qui-Gon Jinn. Great stuff. Super excited for Rad. Super excited to chop it up with Boop and JD for the first time in a hot minute. What else? Nothing else I can think of off the top of my head. So before I throw you guys into the episode proper, a brief word from our sponsors. It's Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the multiverse. They have their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice isn't for you. And if you're trying to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, like look at this. Look at this one right here. Oh, it looks so good. Oh, I want it. I want it so bad. I got their pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus. I believe the asparagus is sold out at the moment. You can also get some rim salt as well. So get on over to sundaysbloodymary.com. It is the best Bloody Mary mix in the multiverse. Like they said, it's just like the Bloody Mary you make at home, except better. And I couldn't agree more. So get on over there, use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout, and get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. So without any further ado, I'm going to throw to the news roundup. Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. Travis, is that the first time you've seen Shaq T?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why the whole show isn't just an hour and 20 minutes of this screenshot with no sound. The occasional ambient car passing my window.
So the origins of that, shouts out to Charlie Ashby from the Imperial Senate Pod. We made a joke during the Jedi Council versus tournament stream about Shaq T. I don't remember how it came up, but it was mentioned. And I saw that Charlie was in the chat. I was like, Charlie, you need to whip that up right now. And he didn't disappoint.
Sensational.
Indeed. Yeah, guys, we got a fun news roundup to get done for y'all.
I almost forgot.
Oh yeah, sorry. To save on time, sometimes when we're on like a little bit of a time crunch, I am being vain tonight because I want to watch Big Brother when it airs. So I was like, I'll do the intro and outro stuff on my own later, after I watch Big Brother. What was I gonna say?
We don't do the top of the show.
Oh
so
yeah, so yeah. So I forget to
Yeah.
like introduce you properly for the can crack. I like straight off into the distance there. But yeah, so we're just going to jump right in here. First things first, as always these days, we're going to talk strike stuff up top, which is going to be a very fun, weird mixed bag. First of all, as of time of record, this is day 100 of the WGA strike.
Yep.
This is day 100, and
Not homeless yet.
No. I mean, hey, first of all, shouts out though, Helen Mirren, Dwayne the Rock Johnson. There was another person who had a big donation recently. I want to say it was Tom Hanks, but I don't think that's correct.
I think it might be Cruise.
I think it
one
was
of the
Tom
two.
Cruise.
I think one of the Toms.
I think you're right. I think it was Tom Cruise. Either way, there have been some really big donations coming through from the bigger actors who are in the union, who are not as affected by this strike as others. So it is nice to see that solidarity, that real solidarity at play there. So that is comforting. Apparently, the AMPTP is ready to begin negotiations with the WGA. A deal has not been met yet. But
is this after the meeting to make the meeting?
I believe so. Yeah, I think I think this is meeting to make the meeting, and then.
Well, no, they had a meeting to make the meeting, and that went really poorly.
Oh, okay. Okay. See, my
like
wires
last
are kind of
Friday.
crossed here. Yeah,
I think last Friday they had the.
Here, let me pull up the Reuters article again and reread it because my wires kind of got crossed with this one.
Yeah. And then, because I know part of it too was the writers said that even if they reach a deal, they'll be on strike till the actors make a deal.
Based as fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's happening there. Yeah, you're right. My wires kind of crossed with that one. Thank you for correcting me. Speaking of corrections with this stuff, there's just something I want to weigh in on real quick. That's really frustrating me, and this is true of people that I consider friends, people I consider colleagues, and people who annoy the piss out of me. Y'all need to learn what the fuck is going on. There are so many people right now spreading just wanton misinformation about the strikes. And I'm sorry, a lot of it is like virtue signaling, clout chasing. And I'm kind of at my wits' end with it. You know,
Yeah.
like, first of all, WGA and SAG AFTRA have not asked for a boycott. If you choose as a content creator to boycott and not cover struck work, that is your prerogative and that is valid. However, other people are still allowed to. The WGA and SAG said as much. That is very much on the record. I think there are a lot of people, and again, I support it. I like people who make that conscious decision to go that direction. There's a lot of movie people on TikTok have gone that way after stepping on multiple rakes. Straw Hat Goofy has taken that stance of I'm not talking about shit. Now, whether or not that's damage control or him just going, you know what, in the name of good faith, I'm going to take a this is the stance I'm going to take.
I would guess it's a mix of both.
I probably a mix of somewhere in
I
between is
hope.
probably the truth. Um, the amount of people who are like shaming others for covering like the Ahsoka trailers or the Loki trailer that we're going to be talking about later. That is not crossing the picket line. That is not breaking any of the guidelines and requests that the guilds have made. Um, and if that was a decision they made, we would have followed that. You know,
Yeah.
um, they said if you do this, keep doing your thing. So I'm going to follow that. And again, what people do is their prerogative. But like it was from a podcaster who shall not be named. But you see them around, and they're in the galaxy. Uh, Posting screenshots from a from a frequently asked questions about guild members and their podcasts and trying to pass it off as though it is a request for podcasts to not cover struck work. Shame on you. You are adding to disinformation. And the amount of people who I know are doing this weird clout chasey virtue signal stuff on the back of striking workers who love to get on their high horse about disinformation and the grifter sphere, who are now just trying who like again it is virtue signaling to the highest degree in my opinion. And I think it is at best sloppy and at worst sinister and repugnant. And I think there's a lot of people who need to figure out what the fuck they're talking about. I made a mistake in this episode. I forgot, with everything that's been going on, that like the meeting to make the meeting went poorly. You know, like there's a lot of news coming out and it comes at you fast. So if you fuck up, and that's one thing. But the amount of people who are deliberately spreading misinformation because
You
it makes them look
you
good or because they're upset with the fact that like we like almost every other podcast we know and work with did the hey until the guilds make it more clear we're just not going to talk about new stuff. There is a few podcasts, one of them in particular, who keeps beating this drum, who made that declaration, made it loud and made it proud, and has now been trying to guilt everybody else who simply didn't do what we did and went, okay, they said the guild said this is okay, so we're going to do it. bulldozed over you, Travis. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say that like you made a mistake because news moves quickly. Things I didn't hear about half the stuff that's on our list today. And so I corrected you, and you went, all right, let's fact check it, make sure that because I could have been wrong too. I'm willing to admit that that's something that can happen. And we both went, okay, we found the thing. We're going to talk about the thing, admit there was a mistake, and move forward. That's all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it is deeply frustrating and deeply troubling. And it really disappoints me. And there comes a point where, and this is where I'm going to be a bit of a dick. The amount of people, or not the amount of people, but to the people who are beating this drum, passively demanding that other people jump in on this optional boycott in this very, demanding. Oh, don't worry. Travis and I are communicating via Google Docs with our show notes now. But with the people who are trying to be like, I don't understand why I'm seeing so many people, promoting struck work. Motherfucker, you're still talking about Marvel and Star Wars. Just because you're not talking about the movies or the TV shows does not mean that the money is not still going to struck companies. Like, I'm sorry if we're gonna play the boycott like this, if we're gonna go, oh, no struck work, I'm sorry, you need to shut the fuck up about the High Republic. You need to shut the fuck up about Spider-Man Reign 2, which is a story I forgot to put in here. Spider-Man Reign 2 is happening because somebody asked for that, apparently. Stop talking about books and comics too, man. Like, I don't understand how one can with a straight face go, we will not be covering struck material, and then go, oh yeah, but the books and comics that tie into all of this is fine. Like, pick a team.
Yeah.
Pick a team. Like plant that flag. Talk your shit.
Be ready to back it up. I mean, it's the same any boycott, right? Like, oh, we're gonna boycott insert Kellogg cereal here. I don't know why. And you're like, yeah, I won't buy. Is Frosted Flakes Kellogg's?
I think so.
As an example, this is not. I know Kellogg had a strike or was about to have a strike a while ago. So
yeah, one of the gigantic mega corporations was on strike not too terribly long ago, and there were a whole lot of people who were like, hey, this company is on strike. Here are all the brands they own. Yeah. Don't buy these.
Like if you're like, oh, I have to boycott the cereal Frosted Flakes, I'm now going to go buy, and it takes an effort to do the research and find out what are all subsidiaries of Kellogg and who the parent company. All of that stuff is difficult to do and takes research, which is why it's a big deal when you plant your flag and say, no, I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just went and bought a box of cornflakes.
Yeah.
Also made by Kellogg,
you cannot demand people boycott Pepsi while you're sipping on a Mountain Dew.
Exactly.
And
that's a much better example. Thank you.
And I'm surprised you didn't go for.
I could never ever in a million years fathom boycotting my lifeblood, and by that I mean capitalism has its grips on me for certain things, as we'll discuss later.
You poor thing. But no, and again, I do think it's commendable, the people who are like, I'm not doing this kind of coverage anymore. Again, Straw Hat Goofy, say what you will about the guy, he's not covering new shit right now. He's talking about anime and anything that is not considered struck at the moment. That good for him. Good for the movie people on TikTok who have shifted their content around. But
and I think for bigger people, right, like a Straw Hat Goofy, it's important for them to do that because they're big enough to have brand deals and they have that kind of influence. And I love what we do. We don't have Straw Hat Goofies follow the base.
No
one. the way I've kind of decided on my head, no one's coming to us to decide whether or not to go see something. They're coming to us in that same vein of like after you consume media in some way that you're like, I don't necessarily have someone to talk about it right this instant, so I have to listen to other people talk about it. I
Yeah.
assume everyone else does that because I do that with a lot of things.
Well, I mean, the vibe I've always gone for with this show, was like kind of like the part of like the genesis of the name too, was that like lunch table discussion. You
Yeah.
know, like back when we had our like Wu-Tang Clan sized fucking roster for a minute there, like the whole allure, save for Connor, was like all of us at one point or another were sitting at lunch tables together, chopping it up about Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. You know, and
Yeah.
I love being able to do that for the people who tune in, as admittedly small and humble as our audience may be at present time. It is an incredible honor to be that for a lot of people. And if we had a straw hat goofy, or that a following to that degree, you know there would be a difference in our material, because at that point I have the resources to get people who are on strike on the fucking show, where
Yeah.
there would like if I had the ability to, there would be weekly interviews with people who are on strike. If I had the
Mhm.
gas that Straw Hat Goofy has, we'd have had Adam motherfucking Conover on this show by now to talk about
Don't
it.
don't tease me like that. Don't talk
You
to me
know,
dirty like that.
I, hey,
Can we
um,
talk about like how much of a Bamf he has not become, but like has now been because like I never disliked him. He was just kind of he existed, right?
yeah,
And then like leading into the strikes, I kept seeing like kind of more lefty content from him, and I'm like, okay, I can dig this. And then the strike hits, and I'm like,
dude,
oh, this guy.
I fucking not only am I a fan of Adam Conover, not only do I respect his work, both in the field as a striker and like as an artist. Damn. Um, well, I also found out, and like you know me, I fucking love Dimension 20.
Hmm.
Um, well, Adam Conover used to be a part of the College Humor outfit,
Yes.
which I forgot. And I found out that two of the cast members from Dimension 20 wrote on Adam Ruins Everything.
Oh, that reminds me, it's not here. Dropout is officially back in production. They've been approved by SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring that up, talking about like the people who've been donating. Sam Reich, the CEO of Reich, I think is how he prefers to say his name, even though his father's
I
like a
can
famous
imagine why.
politician. Well, the funny thing is that his father is a famous politician who is named Reich, and his father pronounces it Reich, but he pronounces it Reich. And I think it might be like I don't want to look like a nepo baby thing, but Sam Reich is a damn good man as far as I know, and anything I've ever seen is that he runs a like Sam Reich runs like the zenith of like what these companies can be, in my opinion, with Dropout. Like I love Dropout the same way A24 has gotten to do their thing with a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the resources that these bigger studios have, that they've also been confirmed that Dropout can keep doing its thing. Um, but yeah, with Conover, I realized that Zach Oyama and Ali Beardsley, I think it was Beardsley, he said, or maybe it was Shaban. I don't know. Zach Oyama and either Ali Beardsley or Siobhan Thompson wrote for Adam Ruins Everything, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Keandre, I know Keandre Lloyd, $10 patron, may have already known that because it came up in the talk back for Crown of Candy. But anyway, all of that to say, if you are choosing to do a more stringent boycott, kudos to you. I think, generally speaking, our show and our pro labor, pro union stance kind of speaks for itself. And I made the decision kind of unilaterally because Travis trusts me implicitly with production things for some reason, and I knew Travis would agree that like every show will lead with strike stuff. You know, because like my rule generally is like the way I like to format the show is to put trailer talk up front if there's a trailer, breaking story, this is a thing, stories in the middle, and then one last like bigger story before we get to like TV talk or the Q&A and stuff. Is how I like to structure the show. Um and right now, and we did it when IATSE almost went on strike. Is that we basically did a whole fucking podcast just about IATSE before going in, you know? I do not want the incredible momentum that SAG and the WGA have built up to be squandered by people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about and running their mouths knowing that. It is deeply upsetting. It is deeply frustrating. And as much as a vapid do better is annoying as shit, do better.
It's not I've noticed I dislike when people are like, do better. I don't know what better is, but do better.
Yeah.
In most cases, where like you could probably give some loose definitions of what better is. There's a clear definition of what better is. It's stop spreading wrong things. Or like or pivot your content to be like, you don't have to boycott, but also here's things you can look into if you're looking
Yeah.
to do a little more. Or here's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of good ways to pivot that.
Yeah. So that said, speaking of other people who are shitting the bed with the strike, the Green Arrow. Okay, I'm not gonna call him the Green Arrow. Because Oliver Queen would never have a chud take like this. So apparently Stephen Amell just kind of put his whole foot in his mouth about the
Just about.
strike. Called it myopic. Said that he doesn't like striking as a tactic. Now, eventually, he did walk this back, and I guess tried to be like, what I mean is like striking is no good for anybody. Like it shouldn't have to come to this. Which, like, yeah, but you said you don't support striking and said that it is myopic. Um, I think this is incredibly frustrating and just
Did you
annoying.
read his like I did an oopsie post? Because I didn't.
Yeah, I did too, and I laughed at it because I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
"This
the
is
most. Here's what I said, because he frames it as like what I said was taken out of context, and then he just repeats what he said and gives no context.
I Travis, you haven't seen Wild Wild West.
That's true. That, to my
There
knowledge, I have not.
there is this wonderful scene where okay, I need to give context. So
So you're not going to give me any context, right?
yeah, I'm gonna pull a Stephen Amell. Zero context. Fuck you. So Will Smith's character's like partner is like this master of disguise. And earlier in the movie, when they first meet, he's disguised as like a prostitute. He's disguised as I should clarify a female prostitute. And later, their next mission takes them to this ball that's being hosted, a costume ball being hosted by the villain of the movie. And because it's a costume ball, there's this woman who, with like the little masquerade mask on, looks like Artemis Gordon in the same disguise. And while she has the mask on, Will Smith kind of walks up to her and like makes a joke about how like the prosthetic breasts look better than they did at the saloon earlier in the movie, and kind of drums on her boobs. At which point she takes off like the masquerade mask and slaps him. It's like, oh shit, this was actually like some random chick in like the fucking post Civil War South who Will Smith just groped. Now, for again, getting ahead of it with context before I like talk about this, how silly and funny this scene is for people who haven't seen Wild Wild West. His partner Artemis Gordon is in a different disguise and goes, "Hang him!" But he has this like stretchy rope that is like actually intended to help Will Smith escape later. And like would not actually kill him because it's all weird and stretchy. Anyway, during this scene, while they're like, you have any last words, he starts trying to explain the situation. And he does this whole, like, because he calls it like some stupid redneck party while they're like scooping him up. And he's just talking about, he's like, listen, my people and my motherland would communicate using drums. So what I was trying to say to this lovely, beautiful woman was like, "Hey, how you doing, darling? It's nice to see you. You look good. How's your mama?" Um, and then he's like, "And now I think some of you guys took offense to the term redneck. So let's break down that term. First word, red, color of passion, power, fire. Second word, neck. 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 I'm gonna come up with something for neck, but like that's what Stephen Amell did.
Yeah.
That scene from Wild Wild West, and everybody at home started counter because I think I'm gonna start trying to bring up Wild Wild West at least once an episode. I love that fucking movie. But no, that's exactly what Stephen Amell did. It's just he made a fucking fool of himself. Same with Zachary Levi. But you know what? He should go clean his fucking room. Um, That's what his buddy Jordan Peterson says to do before he starts criticizing other people. So maybe you should take some benzos and listen to Jordan Balthazar Peterson.
Did you just ruin my evening by telling me that Stephen Amell likes Jordan Peterson?
No, Zachary Levi.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Thank God. I knew that one.
Yeah, no,
That
no,
one
no. I
doesn't ruin
said
my evening.
no. I'm sorry. Yeah, I said Zachary Levi also said some stupid shit about the strike and then tried to say.
Well,
that he
yeah,
didn't.
but he's a weirdo, so.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with the JBP stuff. One last
yeah.
union story, one that is exhilarating to read. One that I let out an actual woo when I read it. Marvel Studios VFX workers file to join IATSE.
I think because I looked at the notes while I was at work today and filled in my little bit. And I think I don't know if it was audible or not, but I went, oh, neat.
This is from Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood's long, hot union summer is getting super heroic. It's a hot union summer, baby.
Yeah,
Visual effects
baby.
crews. I wish someone had said that sooner because I'd have put that on merch if it were June.
That's
If
like
it were June, we all would have a hot union summer merch. Hollywood's long hot union summer is getting super heroic. Visual effects crews at Marvel Studios filed Monday for unionization election with the National Labor Relations Board, according to International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. The labor organization said Marvel's more than 50 worker crew had signed authorization cards indicating they wish to be represented by the union. These are VFX pros employed directly by Marvel and generally work in Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York. It doesn't include the thousands of VFX artists who work on Marvel movies through third-party VFX studios. Marvel has not yet voluntarily recognized the union effort, the Hollywood Reporter has learned. Marvel did not immediately respond for comment. So yeah, I think that there being a more general VFX artist union is something that is still very much in demand, something that a lot of people are still asking for. But the people who work directly for Marvel, uh, for trying to like basically get into bed with IATSE, and I think this is going to be a big first step.
Yes, 100%.
Towards getting a formal VFX union in the works here, which is very, very exciting, and you love to see it. You love to hear it. One we also do like one last serious story before we kind of keep it moving here. Jonathan Majors' assault and harassment trial is delayed shortly after he arrives in court. This is from the USA Today article. John Majors' day in court has been postponed. The Creed 3 and Ant-Man and the Wasp star arrived with girlfriend Megan Good at New York Criminal Court in Manhattan on Thursday for his trial related to his alleged assault of his former girlfriend. Shortly after his arrival, the judge set a new tentative trial date for prosecutors from the Manhattan DA's office, requesting more time for discovery. Major's new court date has been set for September 6th. Manhattan DA press office secretary Doug Cohen confirmed to USA Today. So yeah. Now, if I understand this correctly, it sounds as though I want to double check this. I didn't have a chance to. I wanted to make sure that this story made it in there, though. Um, I heard word that apparently his accuser fled the country.
I've
Um,
also seen that floating around. I did not fact check that, but I did also see that.
I saw it floating around. I again, there was one of those like I saw it reported on Twitter, didn't catch the source, and I had already written the show notes, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to leave the Jonathan Majors stuff out." So,
Mhm.
there will be an update on that element next week to see if we can actually verify that. But that was something that was floating around as well as part of why the prosecution has delayed things. Because this case couldn't have been more murky and confusing to begin with.
Especially not with a show that has Jonathan Majors in it coming out in October.
Um, dude, I don't listen. I'm not trying to minimize this is the Jonathan Major situation at all. Because what I'm going to say is going to sound funny. And I'm not making fun of this situation. But the longer this goes on and the more details that trickle out, I've been rewatching SVU with Taylor lately.
Mhm.
And like this is slowly turning into one of those like insane, like every 5 minutes something batshit crazy happens.
This is an SVU two-parter.
It could be. It could be. Like once we hit the critical mass of like Jabari allegedly fleeing the fucking country, like could very well be the moment I like low key wash our hands of covering this story until there's a verdict, where it's like, you know what, maybe we tap out here, maybe we just fucking wait, um, maybe the dick joke journalists aren't fully equipped for this one after all. Speaking of Jonathan Majors, Loki trailer talk.
I remembered to watch it.
Good. I am proud of you.
It was like 5 minutes before we started.
That's okay. What'd you think? I love
Uh,
it. I'm
yeah, it
so
was
fucking
good.
excited for this. I'm so excited. I go back and forth between whether or not Loki or She Hulk is my favorite Disney Plus Marvel show.
Mm-hmm. Those are good ones to pick for sure.
And
I think the top three have got to be She-Hulk, WandaVision, Loki, right? Like if you're picking one
yeah,
of
that
those,
feels right.
I think that's well, if you're picking one of those to us, that probably feels reasonable. And then if you said to somebody else, they would like disintegrate because I said the word she.
um but no, I absolutely love the trailer. I don't want to say that like we didn't get what we were promised in season 1. But like season 1, like a lot of the hubbub going into it was like it
Doctor
was
Who,
going to
but
be
it's Loki.
Doctor Who, but it's Loki. Um, and I was happy with what we got. I loved what we
Yes.
were getting week to week. And having rewatched it, or not rewatched all of it, but like revisited it, um, I stand by that. Like that show holds up in my opinion. And I love every single character. There's not a single weak. I don't think there's a single weak character. I don't think there's any fat on that show at all. Um, moving into season 2, it feeling more Doctor Who-y,
Mm-hmm.
you
It
know?
makes sense.
Huh?
Like we've worked our way to this point where now like we get to do this for a plot instead of jumping into
Yeah.
it and it not feeling it would have felt probably a little bit like Secret Invasion felt, where it felt a little empty
Hmm.
doing it in season one. And now that we have all this build up and there's going to be some underlying tension with what's going on with Kang and Sylvie and stuff, like we have that as our backbone
Hmm.
to put underneath of the fun time hoppy stuff.
Well, if I could like if I could compare, like, it's kind of like, it's almost kind of like a reverse of the Mandalorian in a way, because everybody went into Mando season one thinking, oh, this is going to be like this like adventure of the week bounty hunter show, and
Mm-hmm.
then we get thrown this wild fucking curveball at the end of the first episode with Grogu,
Right.
and then the show very much is still, in my opinion, like that adventure of the week bounty hunter show. The show just doesn't begin and end every episode with Din picks up a bounty, Din brings in the bounty, roll credits. You know, like he's still doing bounty
Mm-hmm.
hunter shit. He's still doing like fun Star Wars scoundrel stuff. He just doesn't have a target of the week necessarily. And by the time we get to season three, we kind of landed on what I think a lot of people always assume the Mandalorian would eventually get to, which is the like, what the fuck is going on with Mandalore stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we finally land there in season three, and I loved it. I did love season three. I think there's a little fat on season three that I think could be trimmed. I think there's some restructuring that can happen there, but for the most part, I think season three was fucking incredible. And I think with Loki, we're kind of getting the reverse, where like in some ways, where instead of like with Mando, like that first episode um was like exactly that thing, and then it kind of switches with Loki. Like the first season was like kind of, we had our Grogu moment within the opening moments of the show, and now the show is kind of like reaching this equilibrium of, now we've set up chaos within the multiverse, within time travel, that now we can have shit that's just like, boom, here's the World's Fair, and boom, we're in the 70s, and boom, we're in the future, and boom, we're in this weird reality, and boom, 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 boom. um so I'm super excited for that. I'm super excited to get
Mm-hmm.
more, Loki who, which I think is going to be
I
incredibly exciting.
Something that Secret Invasion got me thinking about that I didn't talk about. I think I touched on it minorly, but didn't rope Loki into it. Loki's one of the only um I almost said CW shows. What an insult. One of the only Disney Plus shows to not end in a big dumb idiot battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like even the shows where it makes sense, like I think in WandaVision it makes sense to go where they went because it's not really a fight. It's a smackdown, you know? Like it's not a fight. Wanda just becomes the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, and then she does
That's
magic shit.
right. And then like the fight in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier um is like aptly structured for that show. Like it feels like it belongs in that plot. Um Secret Invasion it doesn't to me. The
Yeah.
big blowout Avengers Powers fight feels really out of place. And something like that would have felt out of place in Loki. Um and like we're looking at our top two, right? Loki and She-Hulk both subvert that expectation for the last episode by doing something that actually fits the plot,
Yeah. Yeah,
actually
I
fits
mean,
the show.
as much as I love She-Hulk, and I do love the She-Hulk finale, I do I have small qualms with not necessarily with the Kevin twist, because it works so well, and just I love Tatiana Maslany so fucking much, and she's so charming. Um I'm a Hulk. I smash bad plot lines. And Matt Murdock. Hey. Um By Panic is Tatiana Maslany and Charlie Cox getting it on. That is
Yeah.
that is what it's like for your entire like body chemistry to catch on fucking fire. Um but just the way that it just kind of like abruptly ends. I was hoping to see her kind of like actively like move the pieces around a little bit more.
Okay,
But I
that's
do
fair.
agree with what you're saying. Um
Yeah.
And
So that
Loki season one finale is so good. Like that whole section where it is He Who Remains, Loki and Sylvie in that throne room. Like that, it is such a beautifully, wonderfully tense scene. Loki and Sylvie's like little like magic duel, while they're like trying to like protect or kill He Who Remains. It's just so well paced and
Yeah.
it's
And
perfect. I fucking
my
love
point
Loki.
my point there is that the they're willing to do that for Loki season 1, which tells me they're willing to do it for Loki season 2 and give us a plot that fits. Because I think that's also probably part of the reason a lot of these shows feel like they can be cut down in the movies, is they have to end in the big blowout fight
Yeah,
with like a cathartic moment coming from winning the fight or whatever. And so it's a TV show. We don't need that. We need something to tie up the plot and feel satiating in that way. And so getting that with Loki feels really good. It makes me trust them to do it again with Loki season 2.
absolutely. And again, I do not want to undercut the very real accusations and potential ramifications and repercussions of what Jonathan Majors may or may not have done.
Yeah.
Again, and we've talked about this before. There is still very much a situation here where he is innocent of the stuff he's accused of with the Jabari stuff, and all the other examples of him being a raging lunatic asshole could still be true. Like we will never know, and until days in court are had, and all of that stuff is always going to be taken with a grain of salt. But all of
Yeah.
that to say, asterisk in place, knowing that it's coming, I am kind of excited to see Kang again. Not kind of, I am excited to see Kang again. Especially with something Timely. Walter Timely, I think, is the name of his character, is another Kang variant. Yeah, and also just like, yeah, fucking Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston's chemistry is so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Loki to come back, dude. Just what a top 10 Marvel show. What a top 3 Marvel show. I mean, maybe top 10 Marvel things of all time, but
Yeah.
yeah, super excited for Loki to come back. Um
One day we'll have to do the tier list / ranking of the
yeah,
MCU. Make everyone upset.
it's
Iron
gonna
Man
be
2 number 1, baby. Iron Man 2 number 1.
um so I'm gonna do my novelties, my vanity story, and then you can do your vanity story, okay?
All right.
Hey Travis, do you plan on you plan on seeing the Five Nights at Freddy's movie?
Probably just because Lexi's going to want to see it. You know,
You
I
know I am. You know I
of
am.
course. I did watch whatever the newest one was for PS5 that came out that like barely worked on release. Security Breach, I think it was
That
called.
sounds right. I think the security breach.
I watched a good chunk of Markiplier playing that game.
So can I unlock a fun piece of like Travis lore that I reminded myself of by accident like last week or
Oh,
so?
sure. Remind me. Let's see if I go on a
Uh,
brain blast.
so I that you fucking hate Matt Pat.
I've come around.
I was just saying, I don't know if you still like if
I was
Matt
very
Pat should
much in a
avoid you in a
place of
dark
like
alley. That is still or
I liked him for a long time, and then he got into FNAF stuff and like earn your bag, dude. But I got so fed up with it, and I didn't care about FNAF. And like hearing stories about, I don't know if it was true, but like he would insist lore stuff was true, and like in that way that he wasn't doing it, but like people were getting bullied online because they like MatPat had followers that would do it, not because of him. I'm not saying he like made people do this, but people are
oh
crazy.
yeah.
Like 100%. Not saying that, but like people have reply guys
Yeah.
without controlling them and like thinking they need to, because that's not a thing any rational person would ever think about. And like I hated that all of it so much. And then on top of the fact that like when he would In the same way that I really hate Death Battle, where they'll just actively misinterpret shows and characters in canon, specifically anything Dragon Ball.
See, that's the
Um,
wall I hit with Star Wars, where I was like, you were deliberately misunderstanding
yeah,
this, and you're making me
like
angry.
you hit a Google search, took the top result, and that's all you wrote down, and
Okay,
then you
while we're
factor
on
that
this
in.
topic, real quick, read Death Battle. I, as someone who does versus stuff, get driven to insanity when people do any type of versus content and like everything is on the table for a character. Like it sincerely makes me angry. And
Yeah,
that's irrational. That's irrational. I can admit that. But like
it doesn't make sense to have characters fighting where they have access to things that like at two different like
yeah.
you can't have it be young Bruce's body in the Batman Beyond suit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. There's a reason why like with the Versus series like I am so litigious with eras. Like where I will be where I will make it abundantly clear like for example, the first episode of the Versus series this season, it was not it was not just Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Galen Merrick. It was Lord Starkiller versus Obi-Wan Kenobi circa Revenge of the Sith or the Clone Wars, whenever we picked them from. Like we were very clear, and it drives me insane where they're like, oh, this character had the power cosmic for 5 seconds in this one issue in
So
a
now
timed
they have it
event.
at all times.
Yeah, so now at any moment can Spider-Man turn into like Captain Universe? Go fuck yourself. That makes me so irrationally fucking angry.
Yeah.
And oh my god, I remember who was it? I remember it was Yumi and Levi were freaking out over it. Wasn't it like Obi-Wan versus Sasuke or something? It was Obi-Wan versus
Oh
a
my.
Naruto character.
Oh, in Death Battle,
Yeah.
Kakashi maybe.
Oh, you're right. It was Obi-Wan versus Kakashi. That's exactly who it was. And I'm watching it, and like you and Levi were like, they don't fucking understand how Kakashi's powers work. And I was practically throwing shit around the room. I'm like, Obi-Wan Kenobi can't use fucking force powers like this. Oh, it made me it's so irrationally angry.
Yeah.
Um,
To bring
that's
it
why.
back, I've come around on Matt Pat. Not on Death
So
Battle. Fuck Death Battle. I've come around on Matt Pat. I don't know if you've
uh,
watched his interview with Anthony Padilla.
I've not.
He's a dude. Matt Pat is a goddamn genius, and like specifically about data analytics and how the like what people refer to as the algorithm, how it works.
Yeah.
He and
Oh
because like
yeah,
that's
because he does consultation stuff, or at least he
yeah,
used to on this. Yeah.
he used to for Smosh. Like he used to have meetings with Ian and
Oh,
Anthony
I knew he
about
did
that.
consultation stuff. I didn't know Smosh was one of his clients.
Yeah, because I think he worked for Defy for a little bit.
That would make sense. That checks out.
That if that's incorrect, I'm sorry, but like some I know he did consultations with Ian and Anthony at some point,
Yeah.
and the like the way he talks about how it works and like what does and doesn't work statistically and like what even saying that like what works statistically like what that means and like the big thing because he said it and I realized I do it because I've always never understood people not th- thinking they're subscribed to a YouTube channel and not being subscribed. That concept has never clicked with me because I'm either like, oh, I know I've been watching this a little more because it got recommended to me. I've watched like 4 or 5 videos. It's time to subscribe. Like it gets pushed to me. I'm going to subscribe to this thing that I've been watching. Um, and then now I'm subbed to it. Of course, I'm going to see it in my sub box.
Yeah.
That the the way to get the algorithm to push something to you or the way that's going to happen isn't you shouldn't tell your audience to like, comment, share, subscribe, and do 85 things. They're never going to do because you've overloaded them. They're never going to do one. Ask them to watch another video. It's the hardest the algorithm will push them something if they watch another video. And I'm like, oh my God, he's so right. Because I've never watched one video from someone and then dropped them forever. And like, I just don't see them ever again unless they blow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
that
I talk
is,
mad shit. Dude knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Big respect. I'll
Absolutely.
see it for him. I'll see the movie for him.
Well, here's the thing. I like game theory. I enjoy game theory, and I know that the FNAF stuff pushed you away. The joke I love to make about game theory is that I got into FNAF because of game theory, and for most other people, that's the other way around.
Yeah, which is weird.
I happened upon game theory, and I think his channel was exploding because of the FNAF stuff. So
Yes.
my YouTube recommended feed was getting overwhelmed with MatPat shit. So I get super into game theory and spend the end of my junior year of high school, I want to say, watching his shit religiously. Just a binging day to day to day to day. Like it started with like the secret lore of Smash Bros, and then it was all of the like Mario secretly a sociopath shit, like kind of like the tongue in cheek stuff. And the FNAF stuff kept coming up, and this is me taking an L very publicly here. And I have all the FNAF stuff kept coming up, and I'm like, the only fucking people I know who are into Five Nights at Freddy's are the weirdest motherfuckers I have ever met in my life. No, thank you. And I kept skipping it and skipping it and skipping it. I'm cleaning the kitchen one day, and I'm like, fuck it. I have nothing else to watch. And I put it on, and I become enraptured by it. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I don't fully understand what he's talking about, but I'm fascinated by this like macabre supernatural murder mystery. So I bite the bullet, and I'm like, okay, I guess Markiplier is known for FNAF.
That's another one that like I didn't
That
watch him a lot. Waffle Wizard in our Discord and on Twitter
yeah,
and such
shouts
showed
out.
him to me. Showed him to me when we were in high school and was like, "You would like this guy," and I did. And then he got really into FNAF and horror games. And I don't really fuck with horror games, and so I stopped watching him as much. Because he became a FNAF guy, as is evident by this movie that he's totally not in, for sure. Definitely not in it. Mm-hmm.
Do you think he is?
Oh, there's no way he's not. At least I don't know. He might be doing like a voiceover or something in it, but he
Yeah.
is somewhere in this film. He will be in the credits.
I want him and Matt Pat to both have a cameo.
That would
And
be perfect.
Daco. Like the
I
holy
don't know who that
trinity
is.
of FNAF people. He's a YouTuber like exclusively does fucking FNAF stuff.
At least one of them is that.
Yeah. Well,
Because
so that was
Mark's podcast now is fantastic. By the way, the Distractables podcast, highly
yeah.
recommend. Lexi
Okay.
listens to it a lot. She got me into it. It's really good.
Hell yeah. I remember she said something in the group chat we're in about Mark bringing up Behind the Bastards once.
Mm-hmm. He did.
And it was just this weird like slurry of like, oh my god. But no. So I was like, okay, so I'll bite the bullet, and I like watching Markiplier stuff at the same time while Matt Pat's developing the theories about Five Nights at Freddy's, and like I just got roped in, and I talk about this all the time. Is that like one of like the cheat codes for my brain is a supernatural mystery story, like some type of plot or like just some type of mystery, because I'm already down for like a mystery whodunit type thing, right? Now put like some weird horrifying type of magic, you won. Like that's why I love Fear Street so much, Taylor and I have made it's one of our Halloween traditions that we watch all 3 Fear Street movies in one night in October. Because because when we watched it for the first time, we were like, oh, like we'll do this over the course of a couple days, and we were like, I have to watch the next one now. And by the time it's like 5 in the fucking morning, and like the credits are rolling on Fear Street 2, and we're like, well, we can't stop now. Like it was the same thing because it's just like it's this big interconnected like supernatural web, and every time a new FNAF thing came out, like God help everybody who was around me at the time. I went full Pepe Sylvia every fucking FNAF release. Mark would drop a video, I'd watch that shit immediately, and then I wait for Matt Pat to do something. I was insufferable, and but a bunch of like other podcasters make fun of me for it. I am so excited for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Like it's kind of embarrassing how on the edge of my seat I am for this. And apparently, to bring it back to why we started talking about this, it might be 3 fucking hours long.
I mean, go off. You got Matt Lillard for 3 hours. I wouldn't complain at that movie.
Here's the thing. And again, are you ready? Are you ready for like prime Jarod cringe?
Oh no. His body's going to be controlled by Doc Ock.
Sensational. No, my biggest fear about the FNAF movie is that it would just completely bypass the lore. And that like for general audiences, it would dumb the lore down to like an insane degree, which again, I wouldn't blame them for. I get it. And I even understand simplifying it. Because the lore for Five Nights at Freddy's is infamously a clusterfuck.
Franchises where the lore makes no goddamn sense and overlaps everywhere. Not for me, man. Not for me. Can't do it.
Hey, you excited for Assassin's Creed later this year?
Oh, I have 3 copies pre-ordered.
Sensational. That's his word.
But yeah. No, so like they dumb it down a little bit, I understand, but like the first couple trailers have me so scared that it's just going to be haunted animatronics that want to kill Josh Hutcherson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be this incredibly convoluted revenge plot from a man whom we only were able to refer to as Purple Guy for like 4 years.
Before you have 3 hours.
We got 3 hours. We got 3 hours, bro. Oh my god.
If you scale it properly, how much of the runtime can they only call him Purple Guy for it to mimic what it was like in real life? Like 2 hours?
Third act is where third act should be halfway through the third act is where this is the first time we should hear the name William Afton.
Yeah.
That is like if we hear if the movie begins with him being called William Afton, I am walking the fuck out. I'm going to cause a scene. No, but I'm so stupid excited for this. On a scale from like 1 to Assassin's Creed, how much do you know about this lore?
More than you'd think, for the reason you think.
I say Lexi has transmuted it to you like a contagion.
Yeah, and like I haven't gone out on my own.
Her brain was corrupted as well.
It's one of those things, and like that partners do where they're like, I don't expect you to get into this. I've lore dumped to her about Assassin's Creed a couple of times where it's like, I don't expect you to understand what I'm saying or to enjoy this with me. Can I just talk for like an hour at you?
Yeah.
And I'm just looking for a little bit of engagement. That's kind of the like, obviously, more engagement than a little bit is healthy. And so like it's like, wow, this is actually very interesting. Please keep talking. I like watching you talk about this.
So what I desperately want to do in time for the movie is do a like because I know I'm probably getting it up on Bombadcast doing it, and there's a chance that like it just gets re-uploaded to this channel with a few edits. But I kind of want to just do one here as well. But I'm starting to find out, inexplicably, not because it's my fault, more people than I know enough about Five Nights at Freddy's for a Jared explains the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's to not feel like a Behind the Bastards episode where the other person knows nothing. Like, I want to be Robert Evans and I want Freddy Fazbear to be my bastard.
You want to have the classic podcast setup of somebody did too much research and the other person
Yeah, or
was
like a
told
knowledge
not
fight.
to.
You know, I need someone to be my Jordan Holmes
Yeah.
and Freddy Fazbear is my Alex Jones.
And too many people are now like, you're Henry Zabrowski. But you
How many podcasts do we listen to that we can reference in the
Right.
span of 5 minutes?
but there's not enough
Kissels.
Ben's. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ben Kissels. I was like, I found Ben and I was like, fuck, what's his last name? There's not enough Ben Kissels in the world to satisfy your craving.
No, well, here's the thing, and I've made jokes about it. Like,
And I compare you to Henry and not Marcus because you're unhinged.
Yeah. Okay, real quick sidebar before I continue. Taylor started listening to Behind the Bastards,
Mm-hmm.
and she was listening to the Dulles Brothers episodes, and we were in the car, and she was like, "Hey, add some of your favorite Behind the Bastards episodes." And I'm like, I'm like, you should not have fucking told me that because you're about to have soup for brain like me. You know, like you thought me getting you in a knowledge fight was bad. You're about to become like slightly fucking like paranoid in a fun way. And I put in the MK Ultra episodes, and we went to visit my family the other day, and she had just gotten episode 3 of MK Ultra. So I got to be in the car for all the George White shit. You know, where he's like looking through a one-way mirror while like hookers dose dudes with LSD, and he's sitting there on a toilet with his dick in one hand and a pitcher of margaritas in another, or of martinis. And it just, oh man, I love it. But anyway, but like I've wanted to like, you know, do this with Taylor. Like my original idea was Taylor will be my guest. Taylor will be Taylor will be my Jamie
strapped
Loftus.
into a chair.
Yeah, strapped into a fucking chair, fucking Clockwork Orange eye splints in while I talk about Five Nights at Freddy's for like 2 hours. And she's like, because she's afraid to watch any of the gameplay and stuff like that. And I keep thinking that means she doesn't know anything. And every time it comes up, she's like, Jared, I was a manager of a Hot Topic when Five Nights at Freddy's comes out. I know what these fucking games are about against my will, but I know enough. It's not going to work. I'm like, fuck. And like, part of me wanted to do it with you, but then I was like, there's no fucking way he has not caught this fucking these brain bugs for Lexi. So I'm like, I can't do it to Travis. So I've accepted I'm going to have to do it to Jerry and Scotty, and Boop from Nerd Herder, who, bit of plugging that I'll probably do in the intro as well. I will be on Nerd Herder live talking about why Qui-Gon Jinn is one of the greatest Jedi of all time. Tune in on Sunday. But I think it's gonna end up being Boop and I tag teaming Jerry and Scotty, explaining to them the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. Dude, I really hope this movie's like 3 hours long.
If you had it your way, it would be like a Snyder cut length.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Aspect ratio and everything.
Yeah. Black and white the whole time.
No. I like the colors too much. I like the 80s arcade aesthetic way too much for that movie to be black and white.
Yeah, that's why it has to be black and white to ruin it.
That was fucking good. Okay, I'm gonna shut the fuck up about Five Nights at Freddy's. You want to talk about your card game?
Oh yeah. So, Magic the Gathering has been in the news kind of actually for realsies and also in my feed a lot recently. As I'm sure many people are aware, in the Lord of the Rings tie-in set for Magic, there was a one of one, only one in existence card of the One Ring.
Yes.
Which, on one hand, I'm not super into serialized cards as a concept, but also it was too perfect not to do it. And I can't blame them in this instance, you know?
So, just real quick, because I'm sorry, I didn't hear you for a second there. They're doing it again, the One Ring?
No. Just that, like, they've done serialized cards before. Like, this is a recent thing, but like last winter, they had some in a standard release, and then they announced they were doing them for Lord of the Rings, and they are all thematic to the Rings poem. So like
I remember us talking about this. Yeah.
so there's there are copies of a card called Soul Ring. It's a very popular card for Commander, the most played format. And so there's an elven art, a dwarf art, and a human, like a man art for that card. And the serialized versions, there's 300 of the elf ring, there's 700 of the dwarf ring, and or maybe it's 1,000, I don't remember, but then there's 900 of the human ring for, you know, the poem and stuff. And then of course there's the one of one. There was only one of that card of the One Ring in the black language, like stamped one of one. There's only one in existence. Somebody in, I think, Toronto area pulled it. I might have my area of Canada wrong, but they were in Canada.
Yeah, and then wasn't it purchased by Post Malone?
It was indeed. Yeah. So the guy made a TikTok about his story. He opened it. He went to a lawyer because there was some possible gambling law issues because it was found in Canada. So he had to make sure he was in the clear with that. Got cleared. They were like, okay, what do you want to do with it? And he's like, my dream is to sell it to Post Malone. That's probably not feasible.
I didn't realize it was that, like, that guy wanted. I thought it was more like Posty reached out to him and was like, hey, how much money do I need to throw at you for you to give me this card?
So there was a bounty from several stores out. The highest bounty was around $2 million. Right. Post Malone's in the area I believe he was performing. Like, he was there for a concert.
Yeah, he's on tour.
And the people that the guy that pulled the card was working with were like, bring the card. We got a meeting with Post Malone. This is not a guarantee that he's going to buy it, but we got you a meeting with him. So he goes and meets Post Malone, and they start talking. He shows him the ring, shows him the card. And then Post Malone says, hey, by the way, what do you play? And the guy's like, oh, well, this is my Commander deck. He pulls his deck out of his bag and opens the box, shows it to him. He goes, okay, that's all I need to see. I'll take the card. Because he wanted to make sure he was buying it from a player and not a collector or reseller.
Which is good, which makes me happy. That makes me very happy that Post was like, I don't want this card if it's coming for some fucking bozo scalper.
And Post has said he paid $2 million for it, so I'm going to take his word for it and say he paid $2 million for it. So I think that might be like the most expensive collectible purchase in history. Maybe.
It's got to be up there. It's got to be up there.
And then like adjacent to that, the actual card, because it is a card in the set, the One Ring, that is playable in some competitive formats, just decimated the competition at the Pro Tour 2 weekends ago. Like,
so I was gonna say, so is there like there's like the One Ring card, but they're also like, oh, and here's the One Ring, but it's not like the special one.
yes, like I own a copy of the One Ring.
Okay, yeah.
That,
but then there's like the very, very,
it.
very special one that was worth, all the crazy
gazillion
stuff.
dollars. Yes, which is why I'm okay with something like that, because like the actual card is I say accessible. They're like $60 a copy because they're very competitively playable. But like the regular ones are accessible, so you have the space to do the crazy shit. Yeah, absolutely annihilated. The two most played cards at the Pro Tour 2 weekends ago were both Lord of the Rings cards.
That's cool though.
Yeah, they're nutty. They're absolutely nutty cards. I would not be surprised if the Ring gets banned.
Because it is the One Ring.
You can it's playable in basically any deck. The way it interacts with the game is very broken. It just would not surprise me if they were like, after a little bit of time, to let the people buy packs of Lord of the Rings, because they've done this before where they released a set and a card was so busted that they tried banning other things to power it down and it didn't work, and they were like, well, we have to ban the new card.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me if by the end of the year the One Ring is banned in Modern. And then we also got the 30 Years of Magic Gen Con panel that announced a bunch of projects coming out in 20.
It felt personal. It felt personal.
They went to first quarter of 2026, which is kind of insane. So I'm going to pull up the graphic for myself. You don't have to pull it up. So we have a murder mystery set coming out as a main release, which is pretty cool. We're getting a Wild West set, which they put out some ideas a few years ago that were like, we have some, I'm trying to think of the name for it. Like, what's the R in R in research? Not research. Oh my God. The concussions are coming back. Prototype. Oh my God. Some prototype art and stylizations for cards for a Wild West set. What do people think of these? Got a pretty positive reaction. So we're getting the Wild West set, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, one of the best named sets of all time. Fight
what
me.
The fuck?
Bloomborough, which Delta in our Discord named the book series that I cannot remember off the top of my head right now that this is going to be based on, and he called it out of nowhere, and I was like, I've never heard of that, but I looked up, and I'm like, yep, same vibe. And then I watched the Gen Con panel, and they name dropped the book series. So, yeah. And then what they described as a modern horror set based around more contemporary, like 70s and 80s horror in Duskmorn House.
I would say, is that Duskmorn? Okay. I'm looking at the graphic right now.
Yeah.
I was going to throw it on screen. But for anybody who doesn't know, I want what you're clearly saving for the last to be a surprise.
Right. I'm saving because we're getting really heavy into the universes beyond stuff like the Doctor Who stuff, like other tie-in stuff, and I think that's what people are going to be more interested in, so I'm saving it till the end. And then we also got the graphic under that for 25 and 26 are all, with the exception of 2, they're all testing names. Kind of like code names, kind of like what Marvel does.
Okay.
So like
Oh,
it
I like the code name Final Fantasy. I wonder what that's going to be about.
right? Yeah.
Dude, if the fucking wrestling one is like a WWE deck.
It's not. I forget. They talked about what all of these are. Like, so the big ones are, and I don't remember what each one is specifically. One of them is Return to Tarkir, which is a fan favorite plane involving time travel and dragons. Don't need to say more. One of them is a Return to Lorwyn, a place based on Celtic mythology, which has only been visited once, and people have been asking for us to go back for over a decade. So we're finally going back to Lorwyn. One of them, I believe it's the tennis one, is a death race set.
Okay.
And I don't remember what the fourth one. Oh, it's space opera. There's a space opera set,
I'm listening.
which
Um,
implies a concept that people have thrown around, because we explained it on the Jedi Council episode. The way Magic's world works is planes or different universes are actually more like planets, and then to traverse them, you need to have a special power called a spark and be a planeswalker. Recently in the story, these portals have opened up called omen paths that let normal people hop from plane to plane.
okay.
So that's like the death race set is a racetrack around 3 planes, is what's going to happen in that set.
Okay.
But the space in between those places is called the Blind Eternities, which is like space but filled with cosmic horror, and also if you walk into it, you die. And people have talked about what would a set in the Blind Eternities look like, and I would imagine that the only way you could really do space is to go into the Blind Eternities,
Okay.
which would maybe be the coolest set of all time. And it's a space opera, which opens up the very small, minuscule potential of a possible Star Wars crossover. Yes.
I know you said it isn't. I'm going to hold on hope that wrestling ends up being a WWE collection.
They would do that they would just do that as a secret layer, like a online only release. Like they wouldn't do a whole set or a deck release like that.
Hulkamania.
Don't give them ideas.
Play this card and cripple a news outlet.
I cast. No, we shouldn't unionize.
There should be a
Getting
card
into
that's just called "It's Me, Austin." It was me all along, with like beautiful art of Vince McMahon's crazed fucking face. Anyway,
Jesus. Getting into the stuff that more people that watch this podcast probably care about. With the last release of the year, Ixalan Caves, Ixalan We Go Spelunking. That's what I've been calling the set. Ixalan is a dinosaur themed plane. There's lots of dinosaurs. I bet you never guess what the crossover is for the dinosaur plane.
it's a Jurassic Park.
It's Jurassic Park, specifically Jurassic World, because of the IP and branding and stuff.
That makes sense.
So we're getting Jurassic World cards in the Ixalan set, which is neat. In Q1 of 2024, we're getting Fallout Commander decks, which this release will mimic the Doctor Who release of this year, where it's, I believe, 4 pre-built decks. I don't know what, no one knows what the themes are. I don't know what their concepts are going to be for what they're doing in terms of like factions and stuff. I'm not super into Fallout lore, so I don't know what the potential is there.
But
I'm going to move on to 2025.
oh, Travis, I think you missed one.
I did. Yeah. I'm also not talking about Modern Horizons 3 because that's actually what's going to eat up all my money, because it's going to be probably the strongest set ever made, because every time there's a set named Modern Horizons, it's the strongest set ever made. mimicking the Lord of the Rings release of this year, we're getting a Final Fantasy full release draft set, the works, in 2025, spanning all 16 main games, and I'm not sure about side games.
Okay.
So it covers all the way up through Final Fantasy 16, which when they announced the final, like a long time ago, they announced they were doing a Final Fantasy crossover, and people were like, okay, so is it a specific game? Is it like, because that depends on the product, and like if it was just Commander decks, you could probably only do 1 or 2 games. I guess you could do 4 games if you really wanted to, but like because they're all Final Fantasies are all different worlds for each game, and so getting to do a whole draft set just makes sense. And the art for that set's going to be insane. Very excited. And then the one that's taking all of my money is, of course, the Assassin's Creed crossover that I can't believe they're doing this to me. And it's in the worst possible product style. Because this is the first set of these that we're getting that is not, it's not Commander decks and it's not a draft set. It's just boosters that can't be drafted, or at least not drafted well, or they aren't designed to be drafted. I don't know how big the packs are going to be, how much they're going to cost. I would assume this will mimic a product release we saw this year, where they did an Aftermath set for one of the main standard sets, and everyone pretty unilaterally despised it because the packs are small, but they were full price. Like it was like 5 cards a pack.
So they're staying true to the lore.
Uh-huh. Wait, I'm confused.
No, just with Assassin's Creed being a wildly inconsistent franchise.
Oh, yes.
That you don't always get your money's worth for.
That is kind of my, like, when they announced the product, I was upset because they're like, yeah, we're calling them Beyond Boosters. Terrible name. I get it, but terrible name. They're not draft packs because it's not a draft set, and there's no Commander decks. And I was like, you sons of bitches, you're really going to make me buy booster packs. And then I thought about it, and they're like, there's not enough material to do a full draft set and make it not crappy. And there's not, you can't divvy it any way to make decks the way you can for Doctor Who or Fallout or Warhammer 40K. So like, I don't like the product, but I also understand why they went with it, and I don't see a better option. They also showed art for Ezio that I need on my wall.
It's the fact that, I mean, obviously, like he is like he is kind of like the face of the franchise still,
right?
Like it was so funny to me that it's like, oh man, not only did they go, yeah, it's going to be Assassin's Creed Magic the Gathering. Here's Ezio and the key art.
Here's Ezio in like, well, no, because there's this art in the graphic, and then they showed a different art. I think I put it in the group chat. Hold on. SAS. I put SS. Assassin's Creed MTG. Is there more art that I didn't see?
I don't know.
There is, and I don't know who this. Oh, is this the Chinese character from the side scrollers? Maybe. I don't know this character. Okay,
whoa! I just saw the other one you sent. Holy shit!
Yeah, in his Ezio armor from the end of AC2.
Yeah,
yeah. They know what I want. They are well aware of what my money wants to do, and it's leave my wallet.
Run away! God damn. Well, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see the art that trickles out for the Assassin's Creed one, especially. Coming up here towards the end, guys, we got a very confusing word that apparently Gal Gadot is going to be working alongside James Gunn to develop something for Wonder Woman 3. Her direct quote was, "I love portraying Wonder Woman. It's so close to and dear to my heart. From what I heard from James and Peter, is that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together." I don't know what the fuck that means, and your guess is as good as mine.
It wouldn't be DC if it wasn't incredibly confusing and made no fucking sense.
That's what we love you guys. Keep on being confusing. I'm open to Godot staying around for the role. You know,
I am as well. I'm not open necessarily to a direct sequel to 84. Like calling it Wonder Woman 3, I think is not the the vibe.
But it also just keeps it incredibly confusing.
Right. That's what I mean.
Like the whole like Blue Beetle is not the first movie in the DCU, but he's the first character thing is already weird, to say the least. But okay. With that, we're gonna get caught up here on Superman Adventures of Superman. Banger 2 episodes.
shows perfect, no notes.
Perfect, no notes. Listen, Deathstroke in a sleek suit of armor with lightsabers. I was wet.
Lightsabers that become a railgun.
Lightsabers that turn into a railgun.
I didn't know I wanted something so bad till I saw it.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I would be super okay if they started trying to like make this what Deathstroke is like in the comics more often, because we've already like so many people have just like abandoned the idea of Deathstroke being a Teen Titans villain. Like people already think he's a fucking Batman villain.
Well, because like he's a grown ass man, so you want to pair him up against other grown characters, which like he was like Dick wasn't a teenager, I don't think, whenever the Judas contract happened. I'm not 100% sure on that. But like I think the idea of this grown man wailing on the Teen Titans all the time,
just being this certified hater for a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds.
right? Like
And,
and like
sure.
with his skill set. I can understand the one to be like, actually, we're just gonna have him fight the other big brooding like hella combat trained guy.
Yeah, we're gonna have you fight the other like one-man army. And I understand that. But I do like this direction with his like loadout of like making him super techy.
Yeah. And like he's young.
Yeah.
Which
it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's something I'm fascinated by. I really like how they do Lois in these episodes. I know you haven't seen Invincible, but some of the most annoying fans of Invincible never shut the fuck up about how Amber is like the worst character in the show, and it's because that she is very angry at Mark from keeping his identity from her, and the way dudes on the internet get angry at women in superhero stories being angry that their boyfriend was hiding the superhero persona from them.
Let me cut some words out of what you just said. The way men on the internet get angry at women. Now I'm going to clarify in stories.
About like this specific dynamic, which like there are versions that I think are like, you know, more justifiable than others or less justifiable than others. But for the most part, I don't think there's ever been a single instance I can think of off the top of my head where like, hey, I feel like I deserve to know wasn't valid. And the amount of like I hate the amount of dudes who just exude the most little PP energy throwing around this fucking therapy speak about women being like, hey, it would have been nice if you told me that me dedicating my entire journalistic career to figuring out who you are was actually a wild conflict of interest. I think is a very valid criticism for Lois Lane to have.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's really weirdly myopic that like the little PP brigade that gets angry about this shit isn't able to look at both sides of this argument and understand them both.
They cannot fathom that someone else. They can't fathom feeling, and then they can't fathom that someone else had a feeling because they were informed in a different way than they were.
Yeah.
This applies to real people, unfortunately, very much as it applies to animated people.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know, I would imagine these people also like post queries about their life to Reddit in search of advice.
Am I the asshole? Yes,
My
you are.
Listen, it's weird now that my favorite Smosh content is their Reddit stories podcast, but like here we are.
I love some shit like that though. But no, I absolutely love these episodes, and I love the emotional continuity and maturity of this show. Of the way that like the whole Jimmy getting left out to dry. First of all, Jimmy Olsen being pilled is my new favorite like direction for him as a character. Base Jimmy. You know what I want to make? So you know how on the InfoWars store they sell those Alex Jones was right shirts?
I didn't, but go on.
I want to start selling shirts that just say Jimmy Olsen was right,
Olsen.
but in like the same font as like the Alex Jones was right shirt.
And on the back it says "and not in the CIA."
Yeah.
On the tag it says "fuck you, Zachary Edward Snyder."
Is his middle name Edward, or are you just making that up?
No, that is. I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah. I looked it up specifically so I could call him by his full legal name.
I want to call this man by his government name,
as is my God-given right.
But yeah, the through line of these two episodes, and I'm so glad I watched them in one sitting.
Yeah, I did as well. I also watched them.
I think that was a great viewing experience, because a lesser show, I think, would have gone out of its way to try to resolve the Jimmy stuff too quickly. And it would have been in such a way that did not require there being more effort on Clark's part. Like
and
everybody.
Also, right. I think on top, like there's a part of the Jimmy story that like feels like Jimmy could have done something really stupid. When I say really stupid, like he would have tried to tank a story of theirs, or he would have done like a villainous act basically in retaliation. And he doesn't, because he's a normal person that is like, I'm feeling hurt, I'm gonna separate myself from the situation and like confront them on it later, basically. And like, we stand content that teaches people how to healthily address negative emotion.
Yes.
More of that, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was just such a, it really was endearing, the direction they took Jimmy in these two episodes, and the way that like everybody kind of had to put their cards on the table and be very emotionally honest with their friends here. You know, like Lois makes it abundantly clear that like the act of hiding this from me makes me feel as though I am on the outs with you in every way. Mm-hmm. Which, and you and I talked about this earlier, there's no way in hell that the general isn't General Lane.
Yeah,
and
I double checked the credits to make sure they haven't already spoiled that. It just says the general, but like it has to be.
It should, I mean, Lois is an army brat. There's no way it's not. So the idea that she has this like unresolved distance and trauma with like that kind of keeping somebody at arm's length doesn't color her perception of like someone else's affection for her is incredibly honest and complex. And the way that like she just very frankly is like, I feel like you not telling me means that you don't actually care for me. And I need you to I need you to tell me otherwise. And the fact that the show does not waste a lot of time of Clark having of like I think Clark reaffirms his feelings for her so efficiently and realistically.
Because the real conversation they have is, for both of them, is a moment of being forward about how they feel about the situation, even though it's uncomfortable for them, and the other person going, "Oh, I didn't realize you felt that way,"
Yeah.
and like
And I
I,
was just completely no pun intended how alien it is to the other one that they would.
yeah,
Like Clark is just befuddled, like Lois, how could you think that? Like,
right.
and he doesn't fight her on it. There isn't anything like that. It's just that, like, whoa, like that is just you're like, I can't wrap my brain around it, but that's how you feel.
And then
And
on the other way, when Clark is like, "I didn't want you to think differently of me because of what I could be,"
yeah,
and they say, "Well, of course not. We like who you are,
yeah.
not, it doesn't matter what you are, you know." Good
Um,
TV, good
great,
stuff.
great TV, great stuff. Um, we stand a talking monkey and a floating brain.
That are
Um,
very queer coded and love it.
they're not coded, just gay as fuck. Um,
Is it
eh,
is it
what?
gay if it is literally a monkey and a robot?
I mean, yeah, because the monkey's male and the robot was a male. I feel like I just go ahead and call it gay because I feel like not calling it gay and leaving it to be just be queer coded like undermines how aggressively like
I
they
would
were
drop
like
the coded. I would drop the code and just say queer.
yeah yeah I like queer there, yeah, you're right. Um, it's just wonderful. This show's just fucking wonderful. I love it week to week. It's just such a treat. And I did
It
not expect there to be such intrigue with Clark's arrival. Like, what is going on with the general? Like, clearly they're implying this technology is Kryptonian in nature.
I would
Um,
I would my guess for the overarching plot is not General at the time necessarily. General Lane sees Clark crash land. His ship is spreading tech and parts everywhere because it's coming out of orbit or whatever, and he, having just had a daughter, is panicking over what that could mean for his daughter if something invades that the Earth isn't ready to handle, and
uh-huh.
begin government projects to counteract it using the technology they harvest from the area. And here we are.
I'm gonna do a Hail Mary theory on this one. That tech is not Kryptonian. It's from
I can see that.
Apocalypse. It's from
Okay.
Apocalypse. I am sticking with my theory, and I don't think we ever got to actually talk about it because it was during that like episode where I did my own Superman thoughts because we kept losing power.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like 99% sure a boom tube opens up while Krypton is under siege. And my guess is that instead of the whole like Brainiac destroyed Krypton thing, which has kind of become the like if Krypton is not destroyed because of a natural disaster, it's Brainiac. It's
Mm-hmm.
like normally the two ways that we destroy Krypton in Superman stories. I think it's Darkseid. I think what they're doing is Darkseid. I think that was a boom tube that opens up outside of Krypton, and I think this is like some type of like apocalyptic drone, and that was the technology that was sent after him. Um,
I can see that. Yeah, because like it is maybe like we're just so treated now to expecting the bait and switch that like I'm also thinking like, well, like they're clearly setting it up to be Kryptonian tech, so maybe it isn't.
I mean, I think there's a
But-
safe bet that it's Kryptonian. And like, not that this is like a slight against the show, but like none of its twists haven't been all of the twists so far have been super telegraphed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But like they didn't hide that it was Deathstroke, you know?
Yeah.
Like we get a little bit of it and they don't say it outright. It's clearly Deathstroke. You know, like there have been moments here where you can clearly tell where things are going, just like with General Lane. Like it's clear who that is. You know, I think the telegraphing is all right there. The writing's on the wall. So like it's not even that I'm like, oh, like a bait, like there has to be a bait and switch. We all think it's going to be from Krypton and it's actually from Apocalypse. I just feel like I don't know. There's just something in my bones is telling me that that Darkseid has something to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, with the destruction of Krypton.
Darkseid's an easy sell because people know Darkseid. He's an easy villain to use because Clark can actually cut loose against Darkseid.
Yeah, he's one of the
You
few
know?
villains that Clark can just kick the piss out of.
Mm-hmm. Or at least like this version of Clark would probably like be even with because he's not fully
Yeah,
invested in his
I
powers
honestly, I
yet.
would even like it if like it's the fight of his life at least.
Mm-hmm.
Like like Darkseid beats him within an inch of his life, and then Clark pulls out the W at the end. And Darkseid can kind of be this litmus test for how powerful Superman's becoming. I also think it's interesting that we haven't seen Luthor yet.
So I'm like,
I don't want to say that he's like lurking in the shadows, but I feel like there's going to be a Luthor reveal in the final episode.
do you remember who Parasite's assistant's name was?
What was it?
It was Alex.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that a motherfucker?
I am like, I haven't checked the credits on that one. I would not be surprised if they run adjacent to 22-year-old Clark Kent, 22-year-old Lex Luthor,
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
and have it actually work.
God damn. That'd be great. While we're talking about My Adventures with Superman, one of our questions this week, I believe it was from director Jake.
I think you're right. I saw this one.
Oh, here, I'll just pull it up on my phone.
I'm prepared ahead of time.
Look at you. You're on a roll today, buddy. You watched the trailer. You like look at our questions for this week. And this would kind of bring us to the end here. What DC superhero would you want to see have a show in the style of My Adventures with Superman, or even just show up in Moz?
Those are very different questions to me.
I'll be for me they're the same, and I'm going to be very boring first. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, voice meter started going crazy. Batman. Sorry to be boring as fuck. But are you shaking your head now?
You loser.
I'm sick of being called a grifter.
No, listen, I would love to see this Superman interact with the Batman. I think that would be novel. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And this tone, the mission statement of this show so far, to like really play with like the comics DNA, and like it's been moving pieces around, but it hasn't really changed much, if anything, about like Superman's history and his lore, that I would love to see this take on Batman. I would love to see these writers tackle Batman, whether that is Batman showing up in My Adventures with Superman, or if there was just a show similar to this. The issue for me would be like when in Batman's timeline, because if this is Superman just getting started, I don't want to pull a Snyderverse and have it be a Batman with a whole Bat family, because that's why I want to see Batman. I want to see Batman, like, or maybe we just get Robin and Batgirl at first. By the time he shows up, maybe it's just Robin and Batgirl. I could live with that. I think that would be okay if Dick and Barbara were like already riding with Bruce.
if you're gonna like try to age range, because I mean, I was thinking about, like I said, I saw this question beforehand. I was thinking about this a lot, and DC in particular, but superhero media in general, has this issue where, like, in order for everything to make sense, everyone there has to be like a ground zero, like a year zero, where every superhero starts at the same time for no apparent reason.
That's another thing I like about Mr. Radtastic's version is that, like, even though like the Superman story is like our first soiree into that world, superheroes have been around for so fucking long in his universe.
And so, I mean, one, clearly we're getting that with James Gunn. Two, I feel like that's where we're at kind of in this show, because Amanda Waller is like a known agent,
Yeah. Well, there
you
isn't
know?
like a freak out over aliens existing either, you know? Like there isn't like a like, oh, like look at these crazy robots and like this
Well, I
the metropolis depicted in this show is already kind of futuristic.
right, and I think, well, but they don't know anything about aliens. Like one of Jimmy's conspiracy theories is aliens.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I misspoke there, yeah.
So I would say that, like, it's plausible in this version that we get, like, if Clark is 22, 23, we can get like 26-year-old Bruce, 27-year-old Bruce. He's been at it for about 5 years. He's probably picked up dick at that point. And we're going to get like child, like, 10, 11-year-old Dick Grayson. And that's how, like, I think that's like the oldest you could make him and have it work. And for mine, I mean, obviously, I want a Green Lantern. I think because, like, my adventures with the Lantern Corps, it writes itself. Um, I would also love a Flash show,
Yeah.
like my adventures with the Flash, and it's kind of the same structure, but with I almost said Lois Lane again. I'm a clown with Iris West in Lois's spot for that dynamic,
Yeah, and
right?
Barry.
It writes itself. But to show up in the show, I really liked what Man of Tomorrow did with Martian Manhunter.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Give me
fucking
John Jones.
god.
Give me John Jones in this show. I'll lose my mind. And in terms of, if I wanted a show in this style, not necessarily tied in, I don't need it to be the same universe, but in this style, give me my Nightwing show.
It's funny because we saw Rhodes signed to Bloodhaven in these episodes too.
And like, the reason I don't say I don't want Nightwing showing up is because Nightwing showing up means that Bruce has to be at least in his mid-30s.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot has happened.
And if we see Batman, I want to see younger Batman. Also, everyone would be talking about the Batman by that point in his career.
Yeah.
If we're a decade plus, if we see him, like I said, I think the oldest we'll see him is he's just adopted Dick. But yeah, give me my Justice League worth of people. Give me a Nightwing show. Could you imagine a Nightwing show with this Slade?
Oh fuck, bro. That'd be so good. Oh, that'd be so good. Especially if it's like this Slade but a little bit older. Like
Yeah.
let him be like let him still
Let him
be
cook.
a twink. Yeah.
Let him cook.
Do you think he ages out of being a twink?
Probably. Most DC characters do.
I like twink Deathstroke.
I do too.
I don't want to lose twink Deathstroke.
He won't be like Bruce Wayne brick shit house. Just be a little bulkier.
We'll see. We'll see. I have mixed feelings about it. But I think that's all we have for you guys this week. Be sure you guys will be seeing this on Thursday. So I believe Sunday is when our episode with Mr. Radtastic is going to come out, where we talk about phase 1 of his DC cinematic universe. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this episode, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear it. So yeah, future Jared, bring us home. And thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, Mr. Radtastic on Sunday, Nerd Herder stream with Boop and JD talking about Qui-Gon Jinn. Yeah, I'm going to try to sneak in a topic episode here soon. I'm hoping. Just again, Scales has been very chaotic with the new job and everything. So I'm going to try to sneak in one more topic episode before our Ahsoka coverage starts in a couple weeks here. I have an idea for an episode that I think is going to be very fun. So stay tuned for that. But with that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys can find Travis on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Political. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dark Jedi 2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, wherever you listen to podcasts, YouTube, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd.
Colin Provolone. Sir.
So good.
Steal yourself, Colin! Steal yourself!
This is me stealing myself.
And to Paco, aka Elix Jones.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
And to our other $10 patron, Ray Clausen, who asks that you donate to Equality Texas and help keep queer kids safe in the Lone Star State. Also, when you go to the website, click on that student store link and get yourself some TNAP merch.
tpublic.com.
Like I said, let's get this channel monetized before October. I believe I said October. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And I am going to make sure there's Cookie Cop merch on that TeePublic for you guys to adorn yourself with some Cookie Cop merch. Our cursed adorable mascot here, who holds onto my headphones when I'm not wearing them. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. I told you to do a bunch of things just now, and that is what Travis said. Matt Pat said you're not supposed to do. I overloaded you, so forget all that. If you haven't seen it yet, watch our two-parter called The Fandom Menace and How We Got Here. It turned a year old a few weeks ago, and it is my proudest piece of content ever. So, with all that said, thank you much for watching and listening. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.